It was just another day for Charlie, the janitor at the city's most prestigious building. The floors were polished to a shine, the windows spotless, and the bathrooms gleaming. He liked his job. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept him busy, and he enjoyed the quiet. People rarely noticed him. He was the invisible worker who cleaned up after everyone, never seeking attention or recognition. But today would be different. It was mid-afternoon when Charlie was on his usual rounds, pushing his cleaning cart down the long, sleek hallway. The building was bustling as usual. The hum of chatter and the clinking of heels filled the air as executives and workers went about their day. It was a sharp contrast to Charlie's simple, solitary routine. He had just finished mopping the lobby when he heard a distant sound, a faint, frantic cry. At first, he thought it was his imagination. But then, the cry grew louder. It was coming from the elevator. Charlie's heart skipped a beat. He rushed over to the elevator bank, his shoes squeaking on the polished floor. As he approached, the sound became clearer, a small child crying for help. The elevator door was closed, but the desperate cries were unmistakable. Without thinking, Charlie pressed the emergency button, his hands shaking slightly. He looked around, but the hallway was empty. The building was busy, but no one seemed to notice the child in distress. "Help! Help!" came the voice again. A sobbing, panicked sound. Charlie's instincts kicked in. He needed to get the child out of there. He pulled out his phone, but the signal was weak. He had no time to waste. The kid was clearly terrified. Charlie wasn't a stranger to the building's elevators. He had worked here for years, and although he wasn't a technician, he knew a few tricks. He quickly pried open the panel beneath the elevator's control buttons, exposing the emergency release. His fingers fumbled, but he didn't stop. Minutes felt like hours. His mind raced. The child was still crying, and Charlie could feel the fear radiating from the small voice trapped inside the elevator. He took a deep breath, steadying his hands. With one final pull, he managed to release the emergency latch, and the elevator door creaked open. There, sitting on the floor of the elevator, was a young boy, no older than 8 or 9. His face was streaked with tears, his small hands gripping the floor as if he were holding on for dear life. Charlie kneeled down beside him, his voice gentle and reassuring. "Hey there, it's okay. I've got you. You're safe now." The boy looked up, his eyes wide with fear, but there was something familiar about him. Charlie couldn't place it right away, but there was no time for questions. The boy reached out, trembling. "Thank you," he whispered. Charlie helped him to his feet, supporting him as they stepped out of the elevator. The child seemed exhausted, but he was safe. Charlie led the boy to the lobby and found a bench for him to sit down. He offered his water bottle, and the boy gratefully took a sip. He was still trembling, but his breathing had slowed. "Are you okay?" Charlie asked, his voice soft. The boy nodded slowly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. I'm fine now. Thank you." Just then, a group of people rushed into the lobby, their faces filled with panic. They saw the boy and immediately froze. One of the men, dressed in a dark suit, stepped forward, his expression one of both relief and disbelief. "Jack, where have you been?" The man's voice trembled with emotion. Charlie looked up at the man, noticing his agitation. "He was trapped in the elevator," Charlie said simply, his voice calm. "I got him out." The man blinked as if trying to process what Charlie had said. Then, his eyes widened in recognition. You're the janitor, right?" the man asked, his voice a bit shaky. Charlie nodded, his face expressionless. The man's gaze softened, and for a moment it felt like the world had stopped. Then, in a flash, he turned to the boy and knelt down to his level. "Jack, are you okay? Are you hurt?" The boy nodded. "I'm fine, Dad. This man saved me." Charlie's heart skipped when the man turned to him with a stunned expression. I don't know how to thank you," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. He looked around as if trying to find the right words. This is Jack. He's my son." Charlie's eyes widened, but he said nothing. He hadn't realized who the boy was, but now it clicked. The man standing in front of him was none other than Mayor David Hale, the city's mayor. The mayor placed a hand on Charlie's shoulder, his grip firm with gratitude. "You've saved my son's life today," he said quietly, his voice breaking. "If it weren't for you, I don't even want to think about what might have happened." Charlie felt a lump form in his throat. He was just doing his job, doing what anyone would have done. But to the mayor, and now to the whole city, he was a hero. "You don't need to thank me," Charlie said, his voice thick with emotion. "I just did what anyone would do." The mayor nodded, his eyes filled with appreciation. "No, what you did, it means everything. You'll never know how much this means to us." The next day, Charlie was greeted by his colleagues with a newfound respect. Word had spread about his heroic act, and he was even invited to a special ceremony at City Hall, where Mayor Hale publicly thanked him in front of the entire city. But for Charlie, the greatest reward was seeing the boy Jack safe and sound, and knowing that his actions had made a difference. He wasn't looking for recognition, he didn't care for the accolades or the spotlight. But in that moment, Charlie realized that even the smallest of actions, done with kindness and courage, could have an impact far beyond what anyone could imagine.